conference. And my name is Jakub Scheffer from Yale University. And I'm very happy to chair this security session. We'll have five presentations in this session. And just to basically we'll go in the order of the program. So I will play the videos for each presentation. And then hopefully we'll have 1 or 2 minutes after each presentation for questions. So please send your questions in the chat, and then I will, time permitting, I'll read them, and hopefully we have some nice comments from the presenters. So yeah, so the first paper is this PSA. Oh, sorry, PSA profiling paper from Wei Zhang and Xin Wang. So yeah, so here let's hear first the video.
My name is Wei Zhang. I'm from University of Louisville. I'm going to present the paper pac-SCA, profiling assisted correlation-based side channel attack on GPU. So this work was done by my former student Xin Wang at VCU and myself. So GPU has been widely used to accelerate encryption, decryption algorithms. However, prior research shows that power or timing-based side channel attack can be launched to derive the secret key from, AES or other encryption, decryption algorithms. So based on that work, in this project, we try to exploit profiling information to improve the efficiency of the SCA attack. So specifically, we use profiling information in terms of the number of loads, and then we find the correlation between the number of loads and the secret key. Based on that, we can quickly identify the keys while reducing the number of samples. So the AES algorithm can be parallelized and to be run on GPU. So in this work, we use a basic encryption, which is based on 128 bits, but it can be extended to 192 bits or 256 bits with more rounds of encryptions. As you can see in this picture, for the 128 bit, there are 10 rounds of operations, and each round, the first 9 rounds, consists 4 basic matrix operations, such as subbyte, shift row, mixed column, and add round key. And the last round skips the mixed column, so it's a little bit different. And this is the attacking scenario we have assumed in this project. So we assume that the spy algorithm and the victim program run on the same computer. And so the spy program can keep sending plain text to the victim, and the victim will send plain text key and kernel to the GPU. And then the spy will launch the profiling tool to get samples, and specifically the number of memory loads. And then the spy gets ciphertext from the output of the victim, and then you utilize the number of memory loads and the ciphertext to derive the AES key for each round. So we have implemented our attack based on the pac-SCA, and we run it on real GPU processors. And we have collected some results. So this shows the results of correlation. So we run it for 16 Ks, and we find that there is very strong correlation for all 16 cases. As you can see in the red dots, that's the key that can be identified by using our exploit the number of loads directly to significantly reduce the number of samples. And our experiment shows that we can derive the keys in less than 6 seconds. So that's a quick introduction. I would encourage you to read our paper.
Okay, perfect. Oh, sorry. All right, sorry, YouTube's out of playing here. So perfect. Thank you so much for Wei Zhang for the nice talk. So we have time for one or two questions. If there are any questions from the audience, this is again for the first paper on pac-SCA profiling. And yeah, while you guys think of questions, one question I had for these GPU-based attacks, kind of in general, what's a use case of using AES on GPU if, for example, Intel has a dedicated AES accelerators already on the CPU?
Oh, well, that's a great question. If AES is running on a specific accelerator, then yeah, then we will have to design a new attack. So this only works for the GPU implementation for this algorithm.
Okay, so if of course, so if you have a different implementation, you have a different attack.
Right.
Cool. Really good. Yeah. I don't know if there are any more questions. I guess another one is like, so what are some, I guess, limitations, or related question, what are some limitations of this approach?
I think one major limitation is that we would assume the attacker can access the profiling information.
Mm-hmm.
So it can use the library provided by NVIDIA to profile the encryption algorithm and to get those number of nodes. So depending on how this is implemented in different systems, so it might require some kind of privilege in order to run the profiling to get that information. So this is a limit for this approach for now.
I see. Makes sense. Cool. Okay. All right. So yeah. So thank you again for the really nice video and presentation. And since we're kind of tight on time, we'll go to the next paper, paper 104, on branch spec. So let's watch the video first, and then we can ask some questions.
My name is Mohammad Hafizul Islam, and I am a PhD student at University of Central Florida. Today, I will present our work, Branch Spec, Information Leakage Attacks Exploiting Speculative Branch Instruction Executions. This work is done under the guidance of my advisor, Dr. Fania. Modern processors are highly optimized for performance without proper understanding of the corresponding security implications. Recent out-of-order processors rely heavily on speculative execution to obtain high performance. In the last few years, vulnerabilities arising from speculative execution have changed the landscape of microarchitectural security significantly. Particularly, during transient execution, while architectural states are guaranteed to be squashed, changes to microarchitectural states remain beyond speculation and can enable potential side channel exploits. These attacks are extremely dangerous as they allow unintended data to be exfiltrated via side channel. Prior works have demonstrated attacks in several components like caches, TLB, and functional unit. Among various transient execution attacks, branch predictor is one of the most critical components. While BPU is usually utilized to trigger speculation, the actual transmission of secretive data typically relies on hardware components such as caches. On the other hand, prior works have also shown that branch predictor unit can transmit data in non-speculative domain. If branch predictor unit can be used as a side channel to transmit data in a speculative domain, it will create a new attack vector where unintended cross-domain secrets could be leaked through branch predictor, which can enable an even more dangerous transient execution adversary. So in this work, we want to answer the following question. Can we use branch predictor as a transmitting medium in transient execution domain? Before diving into details, first let me briefly talk about the basics of branch predictor design. Here, we are particularly interested in the direction prediction for conditional branches. Modern processors maintain a pattern state table of PST for direction prediction. Each entry in PST contains a finite state machine using a saturating counter. For example, here I am showing a 2-bit saturating counter which has 4 states. In a one-level predictor, the branch address is used to select one entry in PST. Modern processors also feature a 2-level BPU design where past branch history is combined with branch design, branch address to index PST. A selection logic is used to switch between one of these two states of prediction. It is widely known that cache state changes during a speculation are not restored by default, even if a speculation is incorrect and expunged. Here we are interested in the following question. Do PST changes remain after a speculation? To answer this question, we design a micro benchmark with major code snippets shown on the right. Here, branch 2 is nested under branch 1 and it's the branch to be targeted. On the left, I am highlighting the PST entry, which is used by branch 2 in one-level prediction mode. In the first step, we initialize the target PST entry to a predetermined state. Let's assume branch 2 is executed with not taken outcome, which sets the PST entry to weakly not taken. In step 2, we trigger the transient execution of weak branch 2. To do so, we trigger the speculation of branch 1 and make sure that branch 2 is executed speculatively and is resolved before branch 1. The PST entry of branch 2 is updated during speculation. In this example, branch 2 is taken under a speculative path, so the PST state is updated to weakly taken. Later on, when branch 1 is resolved, the speculation is detected and all the subsequent instructions, including branch 2, is expunged. In step 3, we execute the branch 2 again with taken outcome and check if branch 2's PST state changes during speculation can indeed impact code execution later. If branch 2 is mispredicted, and the code block of branch 2 will have longer execution time due to overhead of speculation, and otherwise it will have shorter execution time. Figure 1 shows the execution time of targeted code block in step 3 when the outcomes of branch 2 in speculation are different. Here we observe that if the speculated branch 2 is taken, which is the same as the actual outcome of branch 3 in step 3, we observe consistently shorter execution time. On the contrary, if branch 2's outcome in step 2 is different, we see longer execution time. Based on this experiment, we reached to the quick observation that branches executed in the speculative path changes PST entry which is not restored even after speculation is corrected. We note that this can create a new attack variant of transient execution attack in which the BPU can be used as a transmission medium in a speculative execution. We have notified Intel about our findings prior to the publication of this work. Now that we established speculation changes BPU states, we demonstrate how an attacker can abuse this phenomenon to transmit speculatively accessed data in side channels. One example code gadget in victim is shown on the right. Here, although array 1 in victim branch BV may not contain any secretive information, it may be tainted with unintended data since it is executed speculatively, specifically in this case using out-of-bound memory. In the first step of the attack, the attacker initializes the PST state of victim branch to a predetermined state. The attacker uses a branch BA which is congruent to BV to initialize the PST state. Specifically, here the attacker is executing BA twice with taken outcome. This converges the state of the PST entry to one of the taken states. Then the attacker triggers the victim execution so that the victim executes branch BV speculatively. In the speculative path, the victim branch accesses certain unintended data controlled by variable X, which later determines the outcome of victim branch. After victim branch is resolved, the corresponding PST entry will be updated and the changes remain after victim execution is completed. Now that we know the target PST entry in a state correlated to the unintended secret accessed in a speculation, for simplicity, let us assume the state was initialized to a strongly taken by the attacker. If the victim branch is not taken, the target PST entry will be updated to weakly taken. If it is resolved as taken, it will remain in strongly taken. Now, in the third step, the attacker tries to probe the targeted PST entry and infer the unintended secret in victim entry space. In order to do that, the attacker executes congruent branch BA twice again, this time with outcome not taken, and it checks execution latency for the second inference. We can see that BA will be correctly predicted when victim branch's outcome is not taken, which leads to shorter execution time of BA's code block. In contrast, BA is mispredicted when victim branch is taken, that leads to longer execution time of BA. This way, attacker can successfully infer the value of victim branch's condition, which is dependent on cross-boundary data. Let's look at the key results and characteristics of our branch spec attack. Firstly, this is the first attack that shows side channel in a speculative domain using BPU. We also discussed the possibility of leveraging our attack vector to target sensitive applications such as crypto algorithm, image processing, and machine learning programs. Even if the application doesn't contain any secret data dependent branch, Branch spec can potentially target a benign nested conditional branch to speculatively access and leak secretive data. Secondly, we note that branch spec enables stronger capabilities for transient execution attacks. Specifically, this allows an attacker to use BPU for an end-to-end exploitation. More importantly, branch spec can utilize more common code patterns in the victim's code base. For example, in the upper left right side, we show the example of the Spectre V1 code gadget, which requires memory interaction that is not commonly available in real applications as shown in prior ones. On the bottom right, we show several code blocks that can be leveraged by branch spec, which has simpler memory access patterns. We also have shown a covert channel using branch spec that enables a Trojan to secretively transmit unintended data to the spy through modulation of branch execution. Here on the right side, we show the communication protocol of covert channel using branch spec, where spy and Trojan branch on separate processes. On the bottom left, we show the actual latency traces observed by the spy corresponding to the Trojan's data transmission. Now that we know the information leakage threat in a speculative branch execution and the severity of this attack, how do we defend against this? Existing system-level defenses are ineffective against this type of attacks because it mostly targets attacks based on indirect branches. System-level defenses like Rathpoline, IBRS, and others don't have any impact on PST-based attacks like branches. On the other hand, there are several architectural-level mitigations that can be adopted. Most straightforward solution can be restoring PST state after transient branches execution is finished. But this requires additional hardware overhead for checkpointing, and it may have restoring overhead in the critical path of program execution. Besides this, PST update can be delayed for speculative branch execution until at the commit time or at least when they can no longer be squashed. Another mitigation could be leveraging invisible update for speculative branch. More details about attack analysis and discussions of defense can be found on the paper. Nonetheless, this work highlights the secure branch predictor design has to be considered as first order of design priority. In conclusion, we discovered that branches executed in speculation changes PST state, which are not restored after transient execution finishes. We highlight that this vulnerability allows BPU to be used as transmission medium in transient execution attacks. We demonstrate new forms of side and covert channels exploiting the discovered threat. We also discuss several potential mitigation techniques for future secure branch predictor design. Thank you for attending this talk. If you have any questions, please send them to this email.
Perfect, great. Well, that was a very nice presentation. So, yeah, if there are any questions for the branch spec paper, please speak up or type them in the chat. I think we have time for one question, and if there's nothing from the audience, I have one question about the covert channel you mentioned. Does the covert channel require speculative execution since you're controlling both the attacker, the sender, and the receiver?
So it uses speculative paths because our goal is to access some unintended secret which is not available to the target branch. If we are executing the covert channel in the speculative path, then the attacker of the Trojan has the capability of have the capability of accessing secrets which are not available to the target branches, but which is available to the victim's address space.
I see. Because usually in the covert channel, basically the sender, the Trojan has explicit access to the data and just send it. So, would it be possible to do the same attack with regular covert channel without this speculation?
Yes, of course, it's possible to convey these messages in covert channel without the speculative path, but we wanted to show it in the speculative path because this way the Trojan can contain a non-secret dependent branches, and we can still exfiltrate secret dependent data using speculative access. But of course, we can actually use this method to send data in non-speculative path as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. So, great. So, yeah, I think we should move on to the next paper. So now we'll talk about the hardware malware detectors. So let's watch the video. Watch the video first, and then we can again ask the questions.
Into our presentation. In this work, we will show how we can build hardware malware detectors that are robust against evasive transient execution attacks. My name is Mohammad Shahidul Islam, and that will be presenting this work. Adversarial attack has been widely studied in image classification domain. Adversarial attacks add some noise to the inputs so that they are misclassified. In this example, at the beginning, it was a panda with 57.7% confidence. Then some noise is added, which does not change the appearance of the image, but the classifier's output is changed to given with 99.3% confidence. If you do not know what a given is, this animal in the top right picture is waving at you. In this paper, we will show a different technique that helps transient execution attacks to evade from hardware malware detector. For example, hardware malware detector can detect the regular spectre and meltdown attacks as transient execution attacks with 90% confidence. But when the attackers perform some code modification, the same meltdown and spectre attacks are classified as benign programs with 99% confidence. We will show a novel technique that helps hardware malware detectors to detect these adversarial evasion attacks. Transient execution attacks has immensely proliferated and affected processors from various manufacturers such as Intel, AMD, ARM, etc. Examples of the attacks include meltdown attack, spectre attack, foreshadow attack, and so on. Transient execution attack takes two steps. First is transient execution, and second is using covert channel. Attackers use transient execution to access sensitive data. Now, what is transient execution? Transient execution refers to speculatively executed instructions that eventually get squashed. Such execution leaves traces to the microarchitectural stacks, and the attackers leak the data via any of the covert channels. Preventing these attacks are limited because software-based defense solutions engender huge performance overhead, and harder solution requires new CPU design, which poses tremendous complexity. However, harder malware detectors can address these challenges by providing low overhead detection. What is a hardware malware detector? Hardware malware detectors are machine learning classifiers using features collected from hardware performance counters. Hardware performance counters are actually special registers available in all modern CPUs. Hardware malware detector classify malwares as computational anomaly. Multiple works in the literature shows that hardware malware detectors can detect transient execution attack too, and our result in this figure confirms that. Our neural network-based hardware malware detector achieves 99.1% accuracy in detecting transient execution attacks. However, hardware malware detectors are vulnerable to evasive transient execution attacks. Here, I will present different evasion attacks that we generate. Also, we will evaluate the performance of current HMDs in detecting these evasion attacks. We generate two classes of evasion attacks, such as sleep-based evasion and gradient-based evasion. Sleep-based attacks mainly slow down the attack bandwidth by inserting sleep instructions in between atomic tasks, which is SIBA, or insert instructions after all tasks, which is SIAA. We slow down the attack bandwidth from 2 times to 7 times. As you can see in this figure, current HMDs detection accuracy degrades from 99% to around 60% for both sleeping attack variants. Another evasion attack is based on gradients, where attackers first reverse engineer the victim detectors, then calculate gradients on reverse engineered detectors, and finally perturb feature space by inserting necessary instructions based on gradients, such that an attack class can cross the decision boundary and get classified as benign program. We used first gradient sign method, as shown in this equation, to generate evasive samples. Depending on the way we perturb features, Gradient-based attacks can be done by wrapping or instrumenting. In gradient wrapping, a separate thread is launched which executes the necessary instructions concurrently with the attack thread. As we can see in this figure, current HMDs fails to detect around 63% gradient wrapping based attacks. In gradient instrumenting, we directly insert the instructions in the attack code to perturb features, which also slow down the attack bandwidth. And this figure shows that about 58% gradient instrumenting based attacks are evaded by current HMDs. Overall, we can see that gradient-based attacks are more aggressive and evasive than slip-based attacks. Therefore, we propose gradient-free, non-differentiable HMDs in this work, which is found robust against all these attack variants. Here, I will talk about the decision boundary of different HMDs. Current HMDs use continuous differentiable decision boundary as shown in this figure. Here, attackers exploit gradients to find the nearest point of the decision boundary and cross it to change the class. To this end, gradient masking is the only defense that exists against evasive attacks. It uses multiple HMDs and randomly switches between them during detection time. Thus, the decision boundary changes every time it is used. As a result, attackers cannot accurately access gradients. However, the decision boundary can be approximated and eventually crossed as shown in figure B. On the other hand, the proposed non-differentiable HMDs use discontinuous non-differentiable decision boundary. Thus, gradients cannot help mask and the probability of evasion will decrease. Now, I will present the robustness of ND-HMDs against evasion attacks. Starting with gradient-based attacks, the detection accuracy ranges from 91% to 93% for gradient wrapping attack. Again, ND-HMDs achieve similar high detection accuracy against gradient instrumenting attacks, and decision tree outperforms against both instrumenting attacks. Additionally, we perturb features more aggressively, and as you can see in this figure, ND-HMD maintains high confidence in detecting evasion attacks, whereas current HMD confidence falls drastically. Now, I will present the robustness of ND-HMD against slip-based attacks. As you can see in these figures, while the attack bandwidth is decreased from 2 times to 7 times, ND-HMD still achieves high detection accuracy. More precisely, random forest outperforms against slip-based slip after all attacks, and gradient boosting outperforms against slip between atomic task attack. Overall, ND-HMD achieves more than 90% detection accuracy against all variants of evasion attacks. Just to summarize, existing differentiable HMDs achieve high accuracy in detecting transient execution attacks. However, they are vulnerable to adversarial evasion attacks. Moreover, we generate different variants of evasion attacks using gradient and slip-based techniques. Then we showed that all variants can evade current HMDs. Finally, we propose non-differentiable HMDs that are robust against all variants of evasion transient execution attacks. And feel free to reach me should you have any question. Thanks for it.
Oh, great! Thank you for another nice video. So, yeah, if there are any questions, let me. You can feel free to speak up in the chat window. I had one question about the types of the actual hardware performance counters that you used in this work.
Professor, yes, actually, Finally, I have used eight performance counter, hardware performance counters such as branch misses, branch instruction, and instruction count, then DTLB load misses, DTLB stores, branch loads, bus cycles, and L1 data cache load misses. These are the eight performance counters are used as features.
I see. And do you think there will be, or how did you select those counters? Did you just, try different counters and these work the best? Or, would using different counters give you different results?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, initially we have 56 hardware performance counters. Then we selected the top 8 hardware features that has the highest correlation.
Okay, I see that. That makes sense. Cool, great. So thank you again. And unfortunately, we have to move on to the next paper to keep on track. So next, we'll talk about power-related attacks on cloud FPGAs. So let's listen to the video first.
I'm from Northeastern University. Today, my presentation topic is stealthy shutdown, practical remote power attacks in multi-tenant FPGA. Here we start from the outline. In the introduction section, we introduce the threat model and focusing on the power attack on multi-tenant FPGA scenario. In the next section, we discussed the design of the FPGA power distribution network and its overload protection scheme. Furthermore, we demonstrate a successful attack on the Bitcoin mining algorithm to evaluate our proposed stealthy shutdown strategy in multi-tenant FPGA. The increasing demand for high-performance computing capability, which needs effective platforms to deploy the tasks. FPGA is one of the most significant candidates because of the flexibility and short development cycle. The cloud FPGA vendors are suffering from the cost and the use rate of the device. Thus, multi-tenant FPGA cloud servers become a hot topic, as it can significantly improve the FPGA resource utilization. However, this method also creates its specific attacking interface, such as crosstalk phenomenon between two long-wire in FPGA and the multiple users sharing the power distribution network. The attacker can overconsume the power in an aggressive way. In this article, we place the power attack to shut down the FPGA. Different from other works, our proposed attack is well-timed and minimizes the utilization of malicious circuit. Without losing generality, we abstracted the threat model with 4 components. Firstly, multiple independent tenants coincide on one FPGA chip, and they can deploy their applications and execute them simultaneously. Then, we assume the tenants have the flexibility to place any circuits on their cloud FPGA in their desired region. Next, all tenants in one FPGA chip share the resources, such as the logic slice, block RAMs, DSPs, and I/O pins. Finally, no direct physical interactions or logic level sharing among the tenants, which means one tenant can only access its own applications. There are multiple voltage driving ports to supply the FPGA chip. Our research focused on the core power supply pin, VCC-int, which supply logic slice, block RAMs, and DSPs. This power supply is vulnerable to power attack because of the variability of the power load. The load capacity of the power pin depends on the output capacitors, as shown in the figure. In normal status, those capacitors are full charged. The increase of the dynamic power will cause the discharge of those capacitors, and the power distribution network start to step down the supply voltage simultaneously. We apply ring oscillator-based power wasting circuit to emulate an equivalent increasing load scenario, which is used to characterize the FPGA board. Here we apply experiment on 3 different FPGA boards, and we use XADC, an embedded voltage sensor in the FPGA chip, to measure the voltage drop. Those 3 curves represent the different number of power wasting circuit and its corresponding voltage drop. From those curves, we can observe that some critical points may exist. These points represent the output capacitors cannot supply the extra power demands anymore, and it will cause a significantly voltage drop if increasing the power wasting circuits continuously. Although XADC is a real voltage sensor and it is convenient to use, but its resolution is not enough to support the monitoring of high-performance applications. Thus, we choose the on-chip ring oscillator-based sensor to monitor the voltage fluctuation. In order to eliminate the temperature effect, we modified our FPGA board and used external voltage supply for VCC int. From figure B, we can observe that the ring oscillator counting result has a linear relationship with the XADC measurement. In figure A, we apply power wasting circuits to drop the voltage. Please note that the sensor 35 is side by the XADC block, and they are placed in the center of the power wasting circuits. We can observe that the temperature also affected the voltage significantly. The red line across figure A and B represent that if we do not use regulator for the chip driving, the chip will not shut down. This phenomenon proves that FPGA shutdown caused by onboard regulators and their overload protection scheme. An attacker can choose to aggressively inject the power load to incur the shutdown, which is straightforward and easy to implement. However, the up-to-date cloud FPGA can use different ways to check the real-time power usage, which is easy to detect the directly power attacks. Based on the fact that the most cloud FPGA are used for compute-intensive application, and which is also high power consumption. Hiding malicious power injection through benign applications can bypass the malicious circuits detection. We present a Bitcoin application which is power consuming and compute intensive to validate the stealthy shutdown strategy. Table 1 shows the experimental setup in 3 different FPGA evaluation keys. For the stealthy shutdown attack scheme, the attacker needs to collect more information to place an attack. To achieve this purpose, they can calibrate the ring oscillator-based sensor and characterizing the fluctuation region of the target FPGA board. When the Bitcoin mining algorithm is active and keep running, the hidden ring oscillator-based sensor is turned on in parallel for checking purpose. If the attacker can seize the moment when the on-chip supply voltage drops to a certain point, the resource consumption for the attack will reduce significantly. In Table 3, we compare our attacking circuit area consumption with related work. Some potential defense countermeasures may exist, such as enhance the power capacity of FPGA, which can solve the power distribution network vulnerability, but it will cost too much. Another countermeasure we want to mention here is to monitoring the internal current of FPGA chip. When the current of FPGA above some threshold, banning new application writing to this chip may mitigate the attack. Here we can make some conclusion. The onboard power regulation caused the crash of the FPGA. If an attacker can seize the moment when the on-chip supply voltage drops to the critical points, the attacking consumption will significantly reduced. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you for yet another nice video. So yeah, if there are any questions, let me check the chat to see if any questions. We have maybe time just for one question. So I just wanted to clarify that as the attacker, you implemented both the Bitcoin mining circuit and added the power waster into it. So even before the design runs on the FPGA, you already know how much energy the Bitcoin will be using.
Excuse me.
So the power waster is inserted into the Bitcoin miner. So you know before it executes on the cloud FPGA, you already know how much the Bitcoin miner uses.
Yeah, I use a on-chip buffer to. Okay. So the Bitcoin is by another tenant. It's a multi-tenant FPGA. So it's from another tenant. So I don't know the power wasting or something else. So I need to use an on-chip buffer to connection the information and to place the attack. Yeah.
I see. Okay, great. Yeah, so I have some more questions, but I think we have to move on to the last presentation. So now we'll have the last talk about the side channel leakage detection. So let's see the video first.
Hello everyone. Our topic is about the side channel leakage detection. The lecture is organized into these 5 parts. When a device executes its built-in crypto algorithm, it leaks traceable side channel information such as sound, power consumption, execution time, electromagnetic radiation, and so on. Side channel analysis aims to retrieve the secret information by analyzing these physical leakages. ICCD has been a serious threat to crypto devices. Therefore, it is necessary to assess the resistance of a crypto device to ICCD. Side channel leakage detection aiming to identify the points revealing secrets in side channel signals is a preliminary step before further security assessment. In this work, the side channel is treated as a general communication channel and a novel black box detection method by exploring the kurtosis metric is proposed. Meanwhile, false negative and false positive weights are first quantitatively analyzed to examine the efficiency of the detection method. The overall relationship among the input, intermediate variables, and leakages of a crypto device can be illustrated by this picture. Then we have this equation. If we know the distribution of X at the channel parameter side set, can be estimated by the AM algorithm with a given collection of X and Y symbols. A set channel trace is composed of two parts, leakage points and non-leakage points. A communication channel established with the data of a non-leakage point should be a variable parameter channel, because the data can be viewed as random noise as compared to leakage data. On the contrary, the channel established with the data of a leakage point should be a constant parameter channel and will provide a consistent estimator for the channel parameter. The concept of the consistent estimator is shown in the slide. However, it is non-trivial to check consistency in practice since it is unknown. An alternative is to compare the kurtosis of the last few values of seed height in all iterations of the entire AM algorithm, and it expects the kurtosis of seed height at a leakage point to be much higher than that at a non-leakage point. Besides, a threshold needs to be pre-established to select the leakage points. The work opts for a widely used GSD text. To evaluate the performance of the proposed method, we perform two experiments for mono-channel leakage detection. Here we suppose both the input X and the noise N follow the normal distribution, and the mean and standard deviations are denoted as mu, 0, and sigma respectively. The figure shows the detection results of TVLA and our method for the FPGA implementation with different traces. TVLA is a widely used leakage detection method. It can be seen that our method outperforms the TVLA method. To analyze the efficiency of the detection method, we compute the relative distortion and redundancy rates. The distortion rate refers to the percentage of the detected points that cannot be utilized for SCA, and the redundancy rate refers to the percentage of the undetected leakages that is available to SCA. In other words, they indicated the false negative weight and false positive weight. It can be understood that the faster the convergence speed and better stability the two metrics are, the higher efficiency of a detection can approach. This figure shows the detection results for the FPGA implementation. And this figure shows the detection results for the masked version. This feature describes the redundancy weights from the above mentioned figure. The proposed method performs more stable and effective than the TVLA method. The second order t-test is also used to detect the leakages of the master version, but it fails. In addition, another black box leakage detection approach with the chi-square test, a complement for the TVLA method, fails to detect the leakage points too. 。 we further validated the proposed method for multi-channel leakage detection. The multi-channel traces include the power and electromagnetic radiation traces of the FPGA implementation. The detected leakage points of field signals and the union of the detected leakage points of two mono-channel signals are compared in the future. As shown, not only does the proposed method detect all the leakage points of the two side channel trace sets, but it also discovers some latent leakage points. Better performance of the proposed method is ascribed to the fact that the proposed method takes into consideration of noise distribution, classify and processes the leakage samples themselves directly, which can provide more stable and reliable estimation. The side channel is treated as a general information channel that allows this method to issue special requirements for knowledge of implementation details and leakage signal acquisition, but solely using the input that is plain text or subtext and the output that is the side channel leakage traces. If the leakage model of a crypto device is known and the input X is changed to the leakage prediction P, a novel state channel attack can be developed. In this case, the critical key guess corresponds to the maximum kurtosis in the key space. This figure illustrates an example of the proposed attack with different parameters. It can be seen that the proposed attack method is effective. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for a nice presentation. So I think we are out of time or actually we have some time until 11:20. So yeah, if there are any questions, we can take one or two questions from the audience. So I had one question. In general, sort of kind of what's the benefit, or I guess what's the difference to the TVLA, so the test vector leakage analysis? So it seems like this is sort of improvement over TVLA, but can you say a little bit more about how, you know, how much better it is than TVLA?
Hello, Professor, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think the biggest benefit of our proposed method is it is a black box method. We don't need to know the implementation details of the crypto algorithm. I think but TVLA maybe needs to know maybe needs to know the implementation of the crypto algorithm.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, so I don't know if there are any. Doesn't look like there are any more questions. If not, thank you so much for joining the security session. And again, it was really nice five papers that we've listened about. So so again, my name was Jakub, and thanks again for joining today.
Thank you.